The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Can you please prove to me the life that we want is closer than it seems? 'Cause right now it just feels so far out of reach and I need faith.
Good evening and welcome to the September 2023 episode of For the Love of Words. Tonight our poet is Elizabeth Birch. Elizabeth lives in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and although she studied creative writing in college, she's put writing on the back burner for a while so that she could focus on building a career in global public health. This led from her undergraduate degree to master's degree in business and public health, as well as to live and work abroad, most recently in Ukraine, and I believe that she's probably headed back to Ukraine in the not too distant future. Though she continues working in that global health field, she has now made a return to writing with a focus on poetry. She frequently attends poetry readings and open mic events in the Plymouth area, and you can find her poetry in upcoming issues of the Yellow Arrow Journal and the Tiger Moth Review. It's my pleasure to welcome to the viewing audience Elizabeth Birch. Hi,
Thanks,
Elizabeth.
John.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Can you tell the audience when it was you first met up with poetry?
Well, I don't think my memory goes back far enough of our first meet, but I think poetry became meaningful to me for the first time in high school. In particular, I remember us dissecting the poem by Theodore Rothke, My Papa's Waltz. And that was the first time when I realized, wow, words can have double meaning and evoke emotion, and a very small, compact piece of writing can have a lot of impact. And so that's when I started getting more interested in poetry.
And after Roth, who were the other poets that you began to read that may have influenced you as far as your own poetry is concerned?
Probably the most influential poet early on was Mary Oliver. I actually, also in high school, transcribed Wild Geese by Mary Oliver on a piece of paper and hung it up in my bedroom as a piece of inspiration for writing, but also just for life. And I still have that piece of paper. It's now hanging in my office next to my writing desk.
Still influencing you even today?
Definitely.
So tell us a little bit about the type of poetry that you write.
Yeah, so this is a hard one because I don't think it fits nicely into any genre, and perhaps that's the type of poetry I write, which is free verse, or what some people call hybrid poetry, where it's kind of exists at the intersection of prose and poetry. It uses elements of nonfiction and narrative, but also traditional poetic elements of lyricism and sometimes rhyme and meter, line breaks, but it's not easy, I think, to classify because I like to not have restrictions.
Okay. And of course, by that you mean such restrictions as meter and rhyme and things of that nature.
Anything in a formal way.
Okay.
Yes.
Any kind of a form poetry.
Correct.
So that would be like sonnets, villanelles, things of that nature. Those aren't your bag.
They're not my favorite, no.
Okay, fair enough. Can you mention some of the poets who are now writing hybrid poetry or writing the form, generally,
Yeah.
the form of poetry that you write and call hybrid poetry?
So there are a lot, and I've been studying hybrid poetry more recently and discovered them. Claudia Rankine is probably the most famous on bookshelves everywhere these days.
Okay.
And Gloria Anzaldúa, who wrote Borderlands, which is a pretty famous book. They combine nonfiction in a way that I would love to, although obviously not at their caliber. But to be honest, I was thinking about this recently. I think my favorite example of hybrid poetry, which I'm not sure if anyone has actually classified as hybrid poetry, is a story I read in the New Yorker Here We Aren't So Quickly by Jonathan Safran Foer, which is one of my all-time favorite pieces of writing. I think it's classified as prose, but to me it is poetry.
Okay. Have you found it difficult to write shorter poems? I ask you that question because I know most of your poems that I have become familiar with prior to tonight are very long works. So is it a question of craft? Is it a question of you have so much to say you can't really say it in 12 or 24 lines? Because I know you're not a short poem person.
Might be a little bit of both.
Okay.
You're right. I write long poems, which are hard to publish, but I'm really drawn to combining topics, in jamming ideas, and I find it's hard to do that in very limited amount of space. I also don't like the idea that poems have to be trim. Why not put a lot in there, put a lot of ideas, and take that reader along in a complicated journey, because that's what life is.
So would it be fair to say then that in these long poems that you call hybrid poetry, there's a definite structure of prose, and that some of the so-called poetic tools don't come into play?
No.
No. Okay,
I
fair
wouldn't
enough.
call it prose. I would like to think I still use poetic tools. I still try to use line breaks in a way that creates rhythm, creates enjambment of meaning, creates a certain way to read the poem, evoking breathlessness or speeding up or slowing down the reader. So yes, they might be more prose-like than some more traditional, especially form poetry, but they are, I hope, still use poetic elements.
Okay. Does your poetry have any particular or specific themes that run through it?
Yeah, so right now I'm working on a collection of poems that I hope explore this idea of the human journey in trying to be good, in trying to find fulfillment and purpose in life, and how really complicated that is, because the world is not black and white. And the themes that I use to explore that are specifically pilgrims, which is weird, but I live in Plymouth, so I've been thinking about that a lot lately. But also then my own personal experiences, my own personal narrative, including living in Ukraine, including growing up around here in Massachusetts. Nature I write about a lot. So a lot of disparate topics to get to this overall questioning and journey.
Is there a spiritual theme in any of your poems?
Maybe. I think it's unintentional, but I have heard from many that it's there in a lot of
I was thinking
poems.
of a poem called One. That was what made me ask that question that I know I've heard you read, so I just was wondering if that was something.
It's not just one. I do think it's unfortunately I'm not reading one today, but
that's all right.
But I do think it's this overall question of an overall energy in the universe. I wouldn't say it's a religious, but definitely spiritual, or at least a connectedness that we feel in humanity and in nature and earth that recur in my poetry.
Okay. Are some of your poems, given that particular topic, are some of your poems somewhat dark in tone? Or, I'm not saying they all are, I'm just asking if you think some of them might be.
They might be. Someone wise once said that they're not dark, but just dusk.
Well, I'm sure that person must have read quite a few of your poems to make that comment. Is there a particular goal that you have with your writing, with your poetry? Are you working toward a chapbook? Are you working toward a collection? And will there, if it's a chapbook, will it be a limited theme that your poems will touch on? If you're working on a collection, will it be broader themes in different sections? Tell me if you have a project like that in mind, whether you're actually starting it, but you've thought about it.
Yeah, so the collection I'm working on, I hope, is a full manuscript.
Okay.
I'm taking all of these disparate topics, interweaving them with the goal, I think, of connecting with other people who are going through this similar struggle of trying to figure out, how do you be good? How do you find your sense of purpose and contribution to the world, where oftentimes social media and people who think they know better but they don't know better dictate the right and wrong way to live, but there really is no right and wrong way to live.
Would I be incorrect if I said that leads to a theme of self-identity?
That's part of it, definitely.
And will the poems you're reading this evening be of that theme?
Yes, most of them are from the manuscript I'm working on now.
Okay. Does you have a working title for the manuscript?
I do.
Okay, but you prefer to keep it under wraps at the moment?
I'm afraid that it's not going to stick. I can share it with you. The working title is Good in Gray, and you will actually hear the word gray repeated through a lot of my poetry, this theme that there is no black and white, that we're all trying to exist in this really complicated grayness of the world.
Well, I can say to the audience that I've had the great pleasure of being in the room at poetry readings where Elizabeth has read her work. And without a doubt, there's nothing really gray about it in the sense of how well written her work is. And I think when she's done reading her work this evening and you finish listening to her poems, you'll agree that we have a young poet that's on her way to a lot of great things in her future. Thank you so much for coming in this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Hello, I'm Elizabeth Birch. And as I mentioned to John, I'll be reading a few poems from my collection. This first one is one of my favorites. It captures the themes of the work in progress manuscript, including Pilgrim era history and current events. It's called Burial Hill. Erect slabs of slate mark 400 years of death, pilgrim souls beneath lichen-covered stone. I climb the grassy mounds, wondering what's left of the spirits from this town, and remember getting lost in the paved paths of the cemetery in Lviv. Cossack soldiers, borscht brewing babusi, and other versions of myself, of us all, buried beneath. I can hear their ghosts wailing as more Ukrainian children are killed in a war they thought would be over by now. But the pilgrims taught me nothing ends. Husband, wife, the headstones read, parted below, united above. Perhaps this makes us feel better, the inevitable, reunion with lost love, lost land, or makes it easier for us to hurt each other. The Russian boy with a rifle strapped across his back, hands empty, walking towards golden fields and something that can never be undone. Pray for me, he asked his mother on the phone. Later, left behind in a trench, barely buried, his body piled among others, he will not have a gravestone. His comrades strip his wrist of watches he pillaged from villages. Pray for me, his vacant eyes call out to the blue sky. Pray for us, the pilgrims called out that first winter, hiding their loved ones' bodies in deep holes, hands dirty after unearthing Indian bones from shallow graves, newfound buried treasures in their pockets. Pray, we plead. as heard as a pilgrim screams across the sea, fall upon your knees and pray for all of us who will soon fill graves not yet dug. I bury my prayers on this hill and watch the moss grow over. Continuing on the pilgrim theme, this next poem is called Weightlessness. It's an ode to Dorothy Bradford, who drowned off the moored Mayflower, December 1620. Dorothy fell towards the rippling water, tiny waves of Provincetown Harbor welcoming her to this new world. Days earlier, a whale rolled on its back, the sea's surface massaging its belly, and hungry pilgrims thought the fantastic creature was taunting them with its booing, blubber, and meat. But perhaps the whale was just saying hello. Dorothy fell towards the rippling water, past the salt-crusted wooden planks of the floating vessel, her slip, perhaps, propelled by something subconscious or conscious. Did she miss her left-behind son in England? Did she fear death and despair in this new desolate place? Did the deprivation of nutrients drive her crazy? Or did she feel burdensome, not good enough, not warm enough, not whole enough? Dorothy fell towards the rippling water and considered how to swim, float, survive. Weeks earlier, John fell overboard, mid-Atlantic, the stormy sea swallowing and spitting him back out. The men pulled John back from the waves, and now did Dorothy wonder, would he have been better off left behind? Perhaps, she thought, the waves would have rocked him into an underwater slumber, a blissful afterlife, surrounded by beautiful creatures of the deep. Eyes closed, hair floating around his head like a halo, he would surely feel like he found something better than whatever he was looking for. Dorothy fell towards the rippling water, and perhaps she thought of her husband with shame and love, repeating, "He will be fine," enough times to drown her hesitation. Or did she simply imagine rolling underwater, weightless with whales? This next poem, still on the Plymouth and Pilgrim theme, although introducing more of my own narrative and commentary. It's called What's Left Behind. I collect skeletons of former lives, quahog, oyster, and scallop shells, pieces of the past scattered on the shoreline. I graze my fingers along the surface and search for wampum's famous purple, sandy minerals leftovers. I imagine the beachgoers that walked past, each shell, the mollusk that discarded it days ago, and the generations of Plymothians, pilgrims, and Indians that crouched to examine something similar in this same spot before. I wonder if the shoreline looked different 1,000 years ago, when only birds and bears walked among the broken and abandoned homes, turning over the occasional clam to claim its meat. Is this what connects me to the past? Fragile shells much younger than I and yet older than I can imagine? From a speck of sea dusk to a mollusk's meal to the hardening and growing wall of a home, tucked between sea rocks and weeds, soon pulled into the currents, pushed past diving gulls and pinching fish, then thrust into sunlight, deposited in sand. I touch so much in each shell. I harvest what's left behind, carry it home in my pocket, hide it away in my cabinets, windowsills, and drawers. In Plymouth, we roam amongst exoskeletons of a history too far away to touch. Old houses, a replica of a ship deconstructed for parts, a rock with a year carved into its surface and concrete filling a centuries-old crack. We consume these things as if they are summertime sweets, as if they're melting, as if we are. But as I learn to live in this old town of square houses, I wonder what else is left behind. This salty beach air, this moss, this acorn top, the quiet that surrounds tales of murdered Indians, the street names, the folklore that dances in our brains with Rosie and Sam. And what will I leave behind? A sunroom full of shells and feathers and bones? Journals full of half-written poems and apologies? Grateful people, broken people. Who will pick up the pieces of me when they inevitably wash up on the shore? Who will feel my subtle striations and admire my purple core? How hard will you inhale as you hold back a comment about me that's better left unsaid? And who will pay for the unsaying? These next couple of poems center around another theme that I frequently write about, which is nature, plants and animals. And this is called What Happens When We're Not Looking. My breath stops with the sound. A little brown bird lies beside the window, her body still warm under my fingertips, feathers soft like lamb's ear, smooth except for a bulge of bone underneath her throat, the instant of collision forever captured in her discontinued spine. A bright green maple sparkles deftly from the other side of my room's wide windows, a lure uninterrupted by glass, I as deftly left empty. When I lift the baby, her small head rolls limp to one side, if only. Somewhere in the trees a mother calls, her shrill song searching. I will bury the broken at dusk. For now, she rests on the wood of the deck, a reminder on display, waiting to be found, tiny black eyes, half open. This next poem is called Unwanted, and it continues on our nature theme. Unwanted. The English ivy wraps around the dead stalks and stumps from summer, the maple and oak trees struggling to grow between houses and beneath the ivy's suffocating grasp. I sigh as I rake and watch the world suffocating from ivy-esque dictators, our unbalanced existence more natural than I thought. When spring comes, the grass grows tall as I let live the budding dandelions and clover puffs, protect the unwieldy weeds of Queen Anne's lace that later turn into hovering sheets of white. Please, translate my small acceptance of living things otherwise unwanted into more homes for homeless, more jobs for jobless, more medicine for everyone who needs it, even the fat, the poor, the addicts, the atheists, and more kindness for all. I save what I can, I tell the watching trees as I tug at Japanese knotweed, another transplant that grows without regard, stealing sunlight from my friendly flowers to feed its bamboo-like stalks. Even in death, a threat, I'm told, to dig out its roots, dry out the stalks, then burn, bag, and bury. Bamboo bodies lie in rows down my driveway. But the watching trees slow death with their shade as people level forests for land, cut branches for telephone wires, trim bushes to unblock windows, pluck stray seedlings from gardens, choke itchy oak with chemicals. No one keeps tally. In our minds we grow disgust, science and shame, all too necessary activism. But around us, the plants simply sigh. Every second, a collective inhale of air, light, pollen, and fog, then a pause, and the slow, long exhale of sun, sap, wind, and grass. Stay very still. Can you feel it? I unwrap my vines from the dying and dead, lay down my uprooted body, and dry my tears in the sun. These next two poems introduce a third topic area that I sometimes write about, since it's the area I work in, which is healthcare. More specifically, this next poem is from a collection that I call Glimpses into my experience working as a part-time emergency medical technician. This is called EMT Glimpse number 381. The 5 straps of the stretcher may not be enough to hold this woman where the world wants her. Here, the hospital, a home not hers. Voice breaking, raising, eyes wide. She carried 4 children from womb to awareness to working life, and yet none here. Take care of your family, they said, she said, we said, echoing pilgrim women who fed, cleaned, clothed, and turned sick bodies, only 4 still alive beyond the first year. I don't want to go, she screamed, and with my gloved hand on her wrinkled wrist, my small death echoing her own. Please don't unbuckle the straps. Continuing on the theme of healthcare, this is my second to last poem, and it takes a little bit of a turn. It's a slightly different style. It's more of a spoken word piece, or some might call it a rant, so forgive me. It's called A Public's Health. Microscopes and petri dishes decorate laboratories like frames for a collective fantasy. Wake up. Computer screens flicker rows and rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of data. Careful, considered scientists in wait. Discover fungus from a forest, soil sample from far away, something grown, something designed. An aha moment follows failure, follows aha, failure, aha, then test, then test, then test, and more rows, and rows and rows, and rows and rows, and rows of data. Survive the long journey from the lab to the pharmacy, ever incomplete, but trudge on. Modern day Balto, trudge through snow, through Ebola, through mosquitoes, and all their quiet, deadly companions, through ignored mask mandates, through over and under prescriptions, through parents that care more about boogeymen in bathrooms than bullets in classrooms. Trust, in the end, to treat an invisible bacteria or virus, real or fear, while many more still die. Brains breaking, lungs filling, tumors growing, incurable, many, but still, we try to prevent, to weaken, to pull into a realm of normalcy, to educate, to persuade, to convince others to believe, the scientists, the doctors, the people stationed behind spreadsheets with rows and 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 rows, but there is a song stuck in our collective minds. Big pharma, big money, big doubts. Who is controlling who? The FDA, the CDC, an orange president, a computer, billionaire, philanthropist, a dynasty of democratic dictators, how is half our country willing to buy hate alongside power, spew hate from podiums for the sake of the podium? Meanwhile, lines form down candy aisles for signatures from pharmacists on thin cardboard while painted posters call for change from protesters wishing life were simpler. Cheaper drugs, easier cures, no more poor left to die. The incessant squeak of mice in labs, tumors on necks and under tiny arms is at least a step up from Tuskegee. Syphilis cure hidden, racism less so, we claim, but still, Black lives die more than others, controlling for all else, yes. Certain lives are less likely to live. Can we accept that? Try, again, on this never-ending search for a cure, an antidote, a vaccine, a change. Find it, test it, produce it, test it, store it, save it, convince others to take it, then give it out, give it out, give it out, and measure it, right? Good, fair, care. Endless efforts to cure the incurable, to teach, to treat, to try, to know when to stop and when to keep going, who to save and who to let die. Now, I do want to end on a positive note after that. So my last poem is short and sweet. It's actually about my husband, and he's never heard it before. It's brand new, so I hope he likes it. It's called My Sagittarius A Star. And if you don't know, my Sagittarius A Star is the black hole at the center of the Milky Way. My Sagittarius A Star. Your stardust awoke a black hole at the heart of my galaxy, more massive than the sun. Voracious we devour each day and dance, time slowed, and worlds set aglow in our wake of radiation. My green and blue planets remain intact, in orbit, in the peripheral, while we create melodies through reflections and refractions of our love's light. Forever seems like such a small word compared to you. Thank you.
Okay, welcome to For the Love of Words. My name is Priscilla Almquist-Olsen. I'm hosting the musician-songwriter portion of our show, and it gives me a great deal of pleasure to welcome someone that I have actually seen performing at the Easton Concerts during the summer, sponsored by the Shoveltown Cultural District, and she was a guest singer, guitar player, songwriter extraordinaire. So Ali, short for Allison, Oriani, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Priscilla.
And tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and also what were the influences musically on your journey to this place you're at today?
Yeah, so I grew up in Brockton, Massachusetts. I didn't know that I was going to be a theater kid until I started at Act One, Scene One at 10 years old. It's a summer program that usually runs every summer at Brockton High. It's been running for a very, very long time, and I'm really happy that I was able to get my start there. And once that started, I carried it all throughout high school, all throughout college. My bachelor's is in theater education, and now I'm a stagehand for a local union. So I work for different venues, for different acts that come in and out of Boston and Foxborough and Mansfield to set up their shows and take them down at the end of the night.
Okay, and that is your day job, isn't it?
Yeah, it's as close to a day job as you can get also working at night. You know, load-ins happen in the morning and load-outs happen after the show, so they'll go from late night into early morning. Yeah.
So, and most of these shows, I understand, are in Boston or in the Boston region. So, so you're commuting back to Brockton. So, some of your nights are pretty late. You're getting into bed rather late, and how does that work?
They can be, but it's worth it. The shows that I've been able to work on have been absolutely second to none. I wouldn't trade it for the world. You know, especially where I am right now, where I get to learn so much about what it is to be backstage at a venue that big. So yeah, the commute can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge, but I mean, I will take it.
Well, you're young. You can do. You can walk that mile with ease. Okay, so I know that your love of music is what drives you, and I'm happy that you're learning another profession. But tell me about how you started with the guitar, and then how did songwriting come about?
Yeah, of course. Vocals happened for me. I started singing. I've been singing for a very long time. You know, I grew up on country music, listening to country radio. That quickly evolved into a love of rock music, into a love of pop, into a love of a lot of different genres. Growing up in Brockton, there's a lot of R&B and hip hop. You know, so the diversity in what I grew up with is just pretty vast. So I've been singing to the radio for a really long time. That transitioned into me starting theater at Act One, Scene One when I was 10. I picked up guitar around like 14. I was a sophomore in high school at Southeastern Regional Votech, and I had a teacher that, I had two teachers that really were on the music side, and really they showed me my first chords, and they showed me how to play with GarageBand a little bit while I was in high school. And guitar took off from there, and I've been playing. I'm very happy that it's been 10 years of playing guitar. Yeah, and then songwriting happened around 2019 was when I started playing with it, but nothing really came about. And then somehow in 2023, earlier this year, I decided that I wanted to write my first album. And so that sort of brings me to where I am today, sitting with you.
And Ali's told me that last night you shipped all the paperwork into the United States Copyright Office, and you have 3 originals. And are we going to hear those tonight?
Yeah, you're going to hear all 3 originals tonight. You're going to hear Beautiful Pain, I Have Faith, and Sober. I'm really proud of all 3 of the songs. They are the best work that I think I've done so far. And I'm really happy that I was able to put them into the Copyright Office to own the copyright, and I'm really hoping that everything goes smoothly with the application process.
Oh, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. And to own the lyrics and own the music is so important.
Yes, yeah. I, especially within the last couple of years, I've watched one of my biggest inspirations and one of my biggest influences in music struggle with owning her own music, and it was she that inspired me to own my own music and to really try and not only own the music and the lyrics, but also the master recordings. When those are ready to be released, I will be owning those as well. So that's my intention.
Good. Well, you have it all covered. Good for you. So what does the future hold? What's your vision for the future?
I really want to continue in the entertainment industry. I think it's a great industry. It's an industry that's given me a lot. It's an industry that I think I belong in. I want to keep performing. I want to keep writing music. I want to keep, I mean, there's a lot of different facets of the entertainment industry that I'm really in love with. But if I get to be a part of music and theater and just helping people come together and building that community, I think that'd be sweet. I think that'd be awesome for me. So
Good. Well, now, how old are you?
I'm 24.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
she's such a youngster. And so you have the whole world ahead of you. And it's exciting. And you certainly have the correct mental attitude. You're positive, you're hopeful, and you're willing to do the work. And whether it's in your day job, which is very challenging, physically as well as mentally and emotionally, I'm sure. But now you're going to be performing tonight, and I have to tell you, I enjoyed your performance this summer on the steps of Oaks Ames Memorial Hall. It was just fabulous, and you were so happy, and you transmitted the joy that you had. And a lot of performers don't do that, but you do. Where does that come from?
I think that comes from just an overall love of music and what I'm doing when I'm up there. It also comes from, honestly, and this is true when I was an actor doing the theater shows as well, when I was in high school and for Act One, Scene One as well, a lot of that comes from the audience. A lot of that comes from, the people that are there with me and are sharing this experience with me. So the audiences absolutely give me a lot of energy that carries me into the rest of the set, every time I get a chance to perform. So
Great, and you connect with your audience so beautifully. And so tonight we're going to hear some of that. I hope that you will enjoy her performance. You're going to be in for a treat, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
So the first song that I'm going to do is a song called Beautiful Pain. Beautiful Pain is a song that is sort of that One Promise Too Late sort of thing where we don't know if these two characters were a thing or not, but these two characters, you just sort of watch them go through this idea of being on two different paths and just sort of coming into acceptance with that. I walk in the room, look up to see you smiling at me, and it takes everything I have not to go weak in the knees. So I sit down and check myself because I know that we're not meant to be, right? Fast forward hours later, I realize we've been here all night, laughing at our inside jokes and asking questions about life. Then suddenly the haunting truth I tried to hide from is reflected in your eyes. Now I would love to be the one who kisses you so hard that you forget your name. And I can't help the what if thoughts inside my mind that drive me so insane. All I can tell you is the simple fact remains that I've never been the same since those days. So all I could say is thank you for such a beautiful pain. You should know I tried my best to push my feelings aside so I could stop pretending that someday you just might be mine. But it's difficult because a heart like yours was so damn hard to find, and you should know that it's fine if I lose the game of love tonight. I'll be alright in time. But I would love to be the one who kisses you so hard that you forget your and I hope that she cherishes everything that she has. But it hurts still to know we were put on two different paths. One day I swear I'll move on from this grief, pack up and leave, and just let it be. But for now I will sit here and wish she was me. Because I'll never be the one who kisses you so hard that you forget your name. But I can't help the what if thoughts inside my mind that drive me so insane. All I could tell you is the simple fact remains that I've never been the same since those days. So all I could say is thank you for such a beautiful pain. This beautiful pain. It's such a beautiful pain. Okay, so the next one is I Have Faith. And I Have Faith is about these two characters that really want to build a life together, and the protagonist, the singer, realizes that that's probably not going to be possible because they're just not in the space where they want to be, and it's just not, something's not fitting, and so they're trying to make it work, and I think it's this very beautiful thing that's very painful, but ends up with a happier ending. So. When we walked that red stage, they told us we'd be greater than anything the world had ever seen, and we'd swore we'd be together till death do us part. But we never realized that it'd be this hard. We thought we'd skip this town and make our names known somehow. We vowed that we'd never quit. But when I looked at my ring and considered everything, there was a moment where it didn't quite fit. Now I need faith. I can't let this life go to waste. So can you please prove to me the life that we want is closer than it seems? 'Cause right now it just feels so far out of reach, and I need faith. We're nearing 25, a quarter into our lives, and we're still stuck here in this place. We thought we'd be far from home and making it on our own. Instead, I just lay here with tears down my face. Now I need faith. I can't let this life go to waste. So can you please prove to me the life that we want is closer than it seems? 'Cause right now it just feels so far out of reach, and I need faith that everything will be okay. And you know I'm not one to pray, but tonight I'll search anywhere I have to for just one more reason to stay. I need faith. That night it was painful the moment I left. It sickened me deeply, but I knew it was best. I went through big changes and I've got my fears, but I can't wait to find out where I go from here. No, I have faith. I won't let this life go to waste, and I'm gonna do things my way, 'cause I'm finally chasing dreams that I felt for so long were just out of reach. Now I have faith that everything will be okay if I take it just day by day. There's nothing left to say. The next time you'll see me, I'll be on a stage, 'cause I had faith. Thank you. This last one, I won't lie, it is the one that was written the fastest out of the three. Sometimes songwriting just happens like that. Sometimes songs take a week or two or months or years sometimes. This one happened quite quickly, so I love that. Sober is about, sometimes you just get hooked on something or somebody, and you realize that after disconnecting yourself from that something or that somebody, that you're going to be better in the end, even though it's horrifically painful in the moment, that your life turns out the way that it's supposed to. And I love this song because it's more upbeat. You're the strongest drug I've ever taken, and I hate you left me shaking on the floor. I tried to stop it, but I cracked, and now I hate the fact that I came back for more. Felt my addiction at its peak when I didn't last a week without picking up the phone to hear your voice. The constant coaster up and down was just enough to keep me around until I forced myself to finally make a choice. But I'd rather go through withdrawal and detox myself from it all than let you kill me, through our alcohol against the wall. And I won't answer your calls. That's how I'm healing, Right now I know it's hell, but when it's over, I know that I will love myself more 'cause I'm sober. I won't deny my bloodshot eyes and all the nights that I spent crying over you. The chest pain felt like a heart attack, but I let the days pass with no contact. And baby, no, I don't want you back now that we're through, 'cause I'd rather go through withdrawal and detox myself from it all than let you kill me. I threw our alcohol against the wall, and I won't answer your calls. That's how I'm healing, Right now I know it's hell, but when it's over, I know that I will love myself more 'cause I'm sober. Yeah, I'd rather go through withdrawal and detox myself from it all than let you kill me.